Hello, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to be giving a bit of a rundown of all the major elections happening this year. Now, there are a lot of elections happening this year. In fact, this year we'll see the most people eligible to vote in a general election in history. So it's going to be a very big year for elections and democracy. Go through all the national elections happening this year. It won't include some elections because they're never fixed state, and it'll include some local and regional elections. So starting with Africa, the Algerian presidential election will happen in December, no fixed date. The Botswana general election has no fixed date. The Chad parliamentary election and the Chad presidential election, no fixed date. The Comoros presidential election will happen on the 14th of January, very soon. The Ghanaian general election on the 7th of December. The Mauritanian presidential election on the 22nd of June. The Mauritian general election on the 30th of November, the Mozambique general election on the 9th of October, the Namibian general election, no fixed date, the Rwandan general election on the 15th of July, the Senegalese presidential election on the 25th of February, the Somaliland presidential election on the 13th of November, the South African general election, no fixed date, the South Sudanese general election, no fixed date. The Tunisian presidential election, no fixed date. The Togolese parliamentary election, no fixed date. So to the Americas, the Brazilian municipal elections, 6th of October is the first round, and if necessary, the second rounds on the 27th of October. Also the 2024 Sao Paulo mayoral election. To Canada, 3 provincial elections for British Columbia, New Brunswick and Saskatchewan. The El Salvador general election on the 4th of February and 3rd of March. The Dominican Republic general election on the 19th of May. The Mexican general election on the 2nd of June. The Panama general election on the 5th of May. In the US, of course, the presidential election on the 5th of November, along with elections on the same day for the House of Representatives and the Senate. Uruguay will have a general election on the 27th of October. Venezuela will have a presidential election, no fixed date at this point. So to Asia now, Azerbaijan will have a presidential election on the 7th of February. Bangladesh had an election on the 7th of January already. Bhutan will have the second round of its, they already had their second round National Assembly election on the 9th of January. Cambodia will have a Senate election on the 25th of February. Georgia will have a parliamentary election on the 26th of October and a presidential election, no fixed date, in October. In India, there'll be a general election between April and May. That's a very big one. Indonesia will have a general election on the 14th of February and local elections on the 27th of November. Iran will have a legislative election on the 1st of March. Mongolia will have a parliamentary election on the 28th of June. South Korea will have a legislative election on the 10th of April. Sri Lanka will have a presidential election, no fixed date. Pakistan will have a general election on the 8th of February, along with provincial elections on the same day for 4 provinces, and also a presidential election with no fixed date at this point. Taiwan will have a presidential and legislative election very soon on the 13th of January. Turkey will have local elections in March. To Europe, the Austrian legislative election with no fixed date, along with no fixed date for 2 state elections for Styria and Vorarlberg. Belarus will have a parliamentary election on the 25th of February. Belgium will have federal elections along with regional elections on the 9th of June and local elections on the 13th of October. Bosnia and Herzegovina will have municipal elections on the 6th of October. Croatia will have a parliamentary election, no fixed date yet, and a presidential election in December. The European Union will have parliamentary elections between the 6th and 9th of June. Finland will have a presidential election on the 28th of January. And Germany will have 3 state elections for Saxony, Thuringen, Brandenburg, two on the 1st of September and one on the 22nd of September. Iceland will have a presidential election on the 1st of June. Ireland will have local elections in June. Lithuania will have a presidential election on the 12th of May and a parliamentary election with no fixed date yet. Malta will have local elections on the 8th of June. Moldova will have a presidential election, no fixed date. North Macedonia will have parliamentary elections on the 8th of May and a presidential election with the first round on the 24th of April and a potential second round on the 8th of May. Portugal will have a regional election on the 4th of February and a legislative election on the 10th of March. Poland will have local elections with no fixed date. Romania will have a parliamentary election along with local elections and a presidential election in November. Russia will have a presidential election on the 17th of March and regional elections on the 8th of September. San Marino will have a general election in December. Slovakia will have a presidential election with no fixed date yet. Spain will have two regional elections, one on the 18th of February. It's pretty much guaranteed to have a general election this year, but there's no fixed date. Alongside the general election, there'll be local elections on the 2nd of May, including mayoral elections for the East Midlands, Greater Manchester, Liverpool City region, London, North East, South Yorkshire, Tees Valley, West Midlands, West Yorkshire, North York and North Yorkshire. To Oceania, Australia will have a Northern Territory election on the 24th of August, ACT election on the 19th of October, and Queensland state election on the 26th of October. Palau will have a general election on the 12th of November. The Solomon Islands will have a general election with no fixed date. Tuvalu will have a general election on the 26th of January. So now I'm going to briefly cover two key elections happening this year, starting with the UK general election. This is going to be contested by the current Prime Minister Rishi Sunak of the Conservative Party and the opposition leader Keir Starmer of the Labour Party. Right now this is looking like a pretty decisive Labour victory. If you look at the polling, Labour is way ahead. This is mostly due to scandals in 2022, namely Boris Johnson, and then also Liz Truss's short stint in leadership. It is worth noting that the Conservatives have a huge lead in the Parliament, in the House of Commons. Last election was a landslide victory for them, so Labour has a lot of seats to regain. So the next election I'm covering is, of course, the US presidential election being held on the 5th of November. It's going to be contested between Joe Biden and the Republican nominee. The Republicans haven't chosen their candidate yet, but it's very likely to be Donald Trump. If you look at the polling, he is way ahead of all the other Republican candidates. However, he does have a lot of legal trouble on his hands, especially around January 6th, and also some financial cases. He has also been banned from running in the states of Maine and Colorado, which would mean he couldn't get electoral college votes from those states. But that he's also contesting those rulings in the Supreme Court, so those rulings might not end up happening. If it was Joe Biden versus Donald Trump, there's not really any obvious winner out of that. It'll be a very interesting election. So there are some more key elections to watch out for in 2024. The US and UK, obviously, and then also the Indian election, the world's biggest democracy, also Indonesia, Mexico, and South Africa. So they're all ones to watch out for. This year is going to be a very big year for elections. As I said earlier, thanks for watching.